There's so many different stories.
What are you going to do?
I'm not doing that.
We're not involved in them. I was never at Diddy's party. I don't even know the motherfucker.
We're out
I
here
don't want to know nobody.
telling jokes. Telling jokes.
Like I told you.
Having fun.
That's it.
Yeah.
Smoking, cracking jokes, making people.
That's
everything
it.
else is background music. I just want to do stand-up.
What a twisted web some folks weave.
Hello, and I hope that you guys are feeling better than me because, full disclosure, I'm not feeling very great right now. I hope that I look better than I feel. Because, yeah, I think that I'm either having an allergy attack, getting a cold, or it could be it could be the thing. I hope not, because let's just say that the lethargia that I had was insane this morning, where I did not think I was gonna be able to make this and get down here and do anything because I was dying pretty bad. So, but I appreciate you being here for what I can only call a topic that is not my favorite, and that is a man named Joey Diaz. Now, if you don't know who Joey Diaz is, number one, what are you doing here? I mean, I appreciate you trying to learn, but if you do not have him on your radar already, then do yourself a favor and just keep him off of it, because he's a pretty reprehensible human being. And it's one of these things that's happened to me as I grow, where I used to think this guy was funny. I used to watch his comedy, and then I would just, for some reason, compartmentalize all the weirdest and like most heinous shit that he would say, and just go, he's just Joey Diaz. He's hilarious, That I had the Rogan attitude about it, where I was just, that's just Joey, and then you like telling stories about him. He's like your favorite creepy uncle. Oh, hey yo, did you see her? You see that girl over there? She just popped. Yeah, man. That's exactly what he is. That's the guy. Like, every one of us knows that guy or has him in your family, because especially if you're a Chicagoan, and he sounds the same. It's so weird, like how he came from, I think, Cuba, and like lived in the South, and just somehow still sounds like just your, hey, yo, you average Chicagoan, or Italian. Like, I don't know. Is that where, like, we got that shit from? Was, like, trying to be faux Italian or some shit? I don't fucking know. Either way, I'm gonna move on to covering this video that Podcast Cringe did on Joey Diaz, because he did a very, very in-depth look at just all the like worst aspects of this guy, and why we should just not platform him in the slightest, because he really is the worst. And I think that anybody that thinks like him, it is kind of time where we just go, nah, your time is over. Like, you're very uncomfortable, and it's very cringy to even be around. And a guy like Joe Rogan, I think that he is still locked in that like little brother syndrome or whatever. Cause like, I kind of get it. Like, I had a cringy older brother that said some shit and did some stuff where you're like, what the hell? Then all these years later, I'm like, okay, yeah, that was bad. And it was all in the name of a laugh, which, the cringier, I guess, the better. Which I never understood that. But you know what? Without further ado, let's take a look at Joey Diaz.
There's so many different stories.
What are you going to do?
I'm not doing that.
We're not involved in them. I was never at Diddy's party. I don't even know the motherfucker.
We're out
I
here
don't want to know nobody.
telling jokes. Telling jokes.
Like I told you.
Having fun.
That's it.
Yeah.
Smoking, cracking jokes, making people.
That's
everything
it.
else is background music. I just want to do stand-up.
What a twisted web some folks weave.
So the latest episode of JRE features Joey Diaz. He's appeared on the podcast.
I don't know what they were talking about, so I did not do a pre-watch, so this is This is a watch along, guys, so let's have fun with it.
over 60 times, dating way back to 2010 when he made his first appearance on episode 25. He's obviously close friends
Wow, I thought he was on like the original episodes, but
with Joe Rogan. They originally met at the Comedy Store back in the 90s, and he truly is a unique character in the whole Rogan universe, right? Stand-up comedy tends to attract some pretty strange cats, and Joey Diaz is no exception.
I
He immigrated
feel like that was a bit of a personal call out. Just yeah.
to the US from Cuba with his parents. His
Although it's not wrong, you know what? Even the guys that I was doing open mic with, we were kind of all in that same boat where we realized that we were doing it for the same reasons, where we were just fans of comedy and the same like comedians, kind of like these guys. Like we would even talk. I think that we even talked about Joey Diaz.
His dad passed away when he was 3 years old, and then his mum died as well when he was only 16.
I didn't have a dad, to quote Joe Rogan. It's bullshit detector. Because he didn't have a dad, he has a bullshit detector that none of us that had dads, we don't have that.
So it's no
Even though my dad, you know, was a like business guy, like he was blue collar, but also dealt with like the highest class of them. You know, we dealt with a certain tangerine tyrant that, definitely kind of stole us money. But that's neither here nor there.
secret that he got up to no good
I keep using those just little terms of phrase.
as a teenager and then as a young adult. He eventually got arrested for kidnapping and aggravated robbery, and he went to prison on a 4-year
So just right there alone, it's like, just because, he's a funny guy, but, you're telling me he got picked up on not just aggravated robbery, but kidnapping too?
sentence, but was released after serving only 16 months. And it was actually in prison where he discovered stand-up comedy. Whenever the screen projector wasn't working during movie nights, he would perform stand-up routines for all the inmates. Even still, though, it would take him a few years more to build the courage to actually go and do stand-up in a club and pursue it as a career.
America's f***ing beautiful, man. Where else can a felon with 2 strikes? I got 2 strikes. My next strike is life, right? They give you like 20 years if you have 3 strikes. I told him, suck my dick. Even when the feds are looking for me in 99 for that gun, I wasn't cop.
Yeah, see that kind of stuff.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know, man. I'm not doing it. This is the path I'm taking. I don't know what, and I never got in trouble again, Joe. Never.
So then it wasn't until the early 90s that he would
I mean, he hasn't been in legal trouble since, but again, this is the hard thing with comedians, specifically storytelling comedians, is half the time they're lying anyway. But with him, you really do go like, well, he's talking about like shooting a guy. And he's just like, I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth on that one.
really get into stand-up comedy and
You said it.
slowly build a name for himself over the following 20 years. It wouldn't be until 2016, though, that he would release his first comedy special.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it took him that long. So that's kind of crazy to think about, that the only times that I really ever was exposed to Joey Diaz was on the Joe Rogan show or experience, and then Opie and Anthony, because he used to come into Opie and Anthony with Joe as part of his entourage, and he was kind of like introduced. And I do remember there was one specific day where he told a story that was so cringy that it made Opie and Anthony uncomfortable, and me as a listener, where I have heard the cringiest shit and just kind of laughed it off and go, ha ha ha, yeah, whatever, it was for some reason a lot easier back then, but I guess you kind of grow into it. But it was one of those times where I just realized, I was like, I don't think that I could listen to this guy's bits without separating the fact that it's coming from a dude who is disgusting, and I think he's a liar, but that's
called socially unacceptable. But it was back in the 90s that he would
another bastion of humanity, Eddie Bravo there, Joe Rogan really knows how to pick them.
meet Joe Rogan and become very close friends with him.
The fact that Joe never called Eddie out on how many times he'd been hit in the head and just entertained all of his just completely batshit ideas. Yeah. I mean, way, way too often. And I'm pretty sure that there's thousands of hours of them just listening to Eddie Bravo.
Rogan often comments that Joey's the funniest guy he knows. He absolutely loves him, which has definitely helped to put Joey on the map, especially with all his appearances on JRE. And so on the latest episode, he recalled how the comedy scene pretty much saved his life. He was stuck in a life of crime, he had addiction problems, and just generally lacked purpose and direction.
You know, comedy became, you need something to get you out of there.
Yes.
When you're at the store with guys working the door, how much were we getting? $25 a shift. She was paying me $25 on Sunday nights to work the door and $25 to MC. But you fall in love with what you do.
I really am wondering where, how did he, mesh his accent into what it is? Because he's one of those few people that you could be in New York, you could be in downtown Chicago, and you could also be in, Miami. And he sounds like he's local. I don't know how. I mean, he's one step away from also being kind of Philly. So it's that's a talent right there. That's kind of, or in itself, to just make that's just how you talk.
Doing.
Yeah. And there's a path.
How you
And
doing?
there's a path. And when you start seeing other people rise,
Yeah.
and you're stuck as a an addict.
Although it does kind of just sound like he watched, he just sat there with Sopranos DVDs and just was like, yeah, that's how I'm going to talk. That's how I'm going to talk.
You're fucking stuck. You don't know when to stop. I was stuck as an addict, and I got to being stuck as a fat dude. 418, 420. My wife was tying my shoelaces. You know how embarrassing that is?
Wow.
Not fucking embarrassing that is, looking back at it now. People coming to visit you in jail. That's bullshit life, man.
Yeah.
There's so much out there, Joe. There's so and now that's what I'm trying to sell to my daughter. There's so much out there.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be until 2007 that he would kick his coke habit completely. It had pretty much controlled his life up until that point. He got divorced from his first wife in 91 and lost his relationship with his daughter.
See, this is the problem with listening to all of these comedians for as long as I did. So 07, I was definitely, that was right around the time that Rogan was a regular on O&A. And I remember, I think it was the Mencia incident that pretty much pushed him into starting the Joe Rogan Experience. And then he came on, I think 2 or 3 weeks into it, to thank them for essentially giving him the idea for the platform and all that kind of stuff.
As a result, but then he remarried in 2009 and had another daughter who he seems to put a lot of effort into making sure he calls her when he's on the road, he picks her up from school, helps her with homework and all that warm and fuzzy stuff. So he's definitely turned his life around from all the crime and drugs that he grew up.
Okay, that's good, but now I'm starting to wonder, this is what my brain did. This is what I was just describing. I could have sworn that Rogan was just recently talking about him not showing up for gigs.
But over and above all, he credits his comedy family for providing the backbone to lift himself out of that life and make something of himself.
Family is family. Comedy family is comedy family.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what these motherfuckers will never, ever understand.
The people that don't get it will not get that because they haven't experienced it. But we're lucky.
To cheer for each other.
Yeah.
And that's what being a comic is about, is also.
Or that's just good friendship, and you guys have a common ground there, which, that's what happens, that's like brotherhoods. That's why, soldiers tend to, develop brotherhoods.
And giving love to these people.
Hockey teams and wrestlers, any industry that it's kind of like a niche industry, you're going to end up having a small brotherhood or, special friendships within them, as long as you're not a horrible person or just a straight up asshole.
People going, you know what, you're doing good, man.
Yeah.
And just like Rogan, he takes pride in giving back to the comedy community. Rogan himself is in legacy mode with his comedy club in Austin. He's credited with reviving stand-up comedy in the United States and giving it a whole new look away from LA and New York, which has become dominated by the elites and suits from large corporations calling all the shots.
No, geez, it's almost like they all kind of came together into Austin and we're just like, yeah, you know what? We're just going to be completely out of touch together.
Now the comedy scene is a lot more democratic. Rogan's all about pushing the funniest people that come across his radar. He's got no agenda. He just wants to help the funniest comics find an audience.
What? That's being a little too fair to him, but okay.
Here's the thing, though. No,
I was about to say, I'm like, this is a little puffy.
just let me show you.
She's lucky she paid $100. I had girls sucking my dick and giving me coke from Chewy.
There it is. There it is. I knew it. I knew it.
You think I'm fucking kidding you? Fuck yeah, you gotta suck my dick to get up in the belly room. I'm making...
I remember. See, there it is. There. I totally. Okay. No, I totally remember. Okay. This was the big scandal that I heard about him right around the time that Louis C.K. was getting called out. There were other female comics that were insinuating that there was another comic that was pulling way worse shit that was going to be protected by, you know, a certain guy with a certain podcast. And I was just like, huh, yeah, okay. And then, you know, full disclosure, I did kind of piece it together where I was like, oh, I think it was Joey Diaz. And yeah, this does strike a chord where I was like, all right, I remember listening to this.
Call for you.
And this is the shit that I was talking about where, like, you know, Rogan, Red Band, like, they're just normalizing it. They're just, yeah, man. You made her suck your dick to get into the belly room. You abused your power. You mean you pulled a totally you did the Weinstein? Notice how this is 2011, before Me Too was a thing.
It's the fucking gateway into coming to Hollywood. Everybody knows that.
How many girls did you have do that?
Oh, 20.
Oh my God! And he just admits it. And then fucking Rogan, he's sitting there. You totally abused your power to get female comedians to suck your dick? Oh, yeah, baby. Hilarious. I love this guy. Let's go. Let's make him a headliner.
Open mic chick dog that used to come up to the comedy store with a 20 and just take me up to the belly room and suck my dick and go do her set. She was tremendous.
Wow.
She finally freaked out. When she got to Hollywood, bro, she was beautiful. And when she left, she had dirty, her nails were dirty. And then a year later, she wrote me a letter to the comedy store. You sucker, you broke me. I kept shooting sperm balls in her fucking ear ball. Every time she went down, vaya pa la pinga.
So if you weren't able to follow there, this was way back in 2011, less than 2 years after the first JRE episode went live. And Joey Diaz was telling Joe Rogan and his producer at the time, Brian Redban, who's now part of Kill Tony, about how he
That's where he went. Okay.
used to coerce young female comics into performing favors for him, and in turn he would give.
Yet Louis C.K. And trust me, I am not going to bat for Louis C.K., even though, like, yeah, he had funny stand-up and he was a great writer, blah, 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 but he was a certifiable creep and definitely made a bad name for himself in the comedy scene, specifically with certain female comics, so... Oh, man, I just can't believe that this one was buried as long as it had been.
Give them.
I knew it was a little too fluffy in the very beginning of this video. I was like, this is kind of being way too fair to him. This is making up me. Like, I felt like an asshole. I'm like, oh shit, did I just watch a video that's a puff piece on Joey Diaz?
Access to the belly room, which is part of the comedy store in LA, through some of his contacts. He also said that one female comic in particular would later write to him complaining that he broke her after getting washed up and spat out by Hollywood years later. Now, that's obviously a clip that most Joey Diaz fans will find difficult to watch and would perhaps prefer to forget about, but unfortunately, things get worse. You see?
Yeah, see, the thing is, he brags about this shit. He saw this as a badge of honor. Like, this is, okay, I get it. Like, I get how annoying it is to have a bunch of these, like a virtue signaling leftist come to you and just be like, oh, I don't like that you even, insinuate that this stuff could be funny in any way. I think that you're making light of all these situations, blah, 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 blah. But then you have situations like this that are completely like, oh, fuck, man. Like, and you got the other side of that where it's like, even if you are a chauvinist asshole that like laughs at the lowest common denominator bullshit, this is the stuff that even should get you going, oh, bro. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
For some reason, Joey has a fascination with predators and predatory behavior, and he likes to discuss it
see?
openly on podcasts. Back in 2020, he was on JRE. He was explaining to Rogan how dirty the LA scene is, how corrupt it's become. And as more and more information comes out about the things that have been going on there over the years, the picture has become clearer. And he brought up a specific example of just how rotten LA
This is what I thought Goldberg from the Mighty Ducks would grow up to look like.
is.
And if you've seen that guy and what he turned into, although I think he turned his life around and he's doing really well now, but if you see the famous picture of him, woof.
Except what he describes is almost exactly what he confessed to just 9 years earlier on the exact same podcast.
It's just disgusting people out here.
Yeah.
This is, between the Big Rom documentary, did you see that one?
I didn't see that.
That filthy f***ing animal getting women to suck that f***ing 90-degree weather.
Why, are you just jealous that you didn't get the same treatment?
6 yoga session. That's just cruelty to animals. You could put you in jail for just sucking that dick. Harvey, all that shit happens here.
Yeah.
So like I said, Joey seems to have this deep fascination with predatory behavior, even after admitting that he himself engaged
Did he forget about that? Did he forget that he said that on the fucking internet?
in similar behavior with over 20 women during the 90s and early 2000s. He even went into detail on JRE back in 2018, giving Harvey Weinstein strategic advice on how to get off his charges based off
Weird observation, but that's the most Cuban I think he's ever looked.
what he would do in the same situation. And what I found so interesting about all of this is how he automatically identified with Harvey Weinstein. Rogan actually asks him why he thinks Weinstein would do this, and Joey basically explains that it goes back to his own experiences
What, did you jerk off in a plant too?
living around criminals and being one himself.
It's very interesting where this Harvey Weinstein case is going to go.
It's very interesting where this Harvey. Did you know that we're one? Did you know that we're one and the same there, brother?
Right now, he
Was it a hibiscus plant? Because mine was a hibiscus plant. Yeah.
has Benjamin Braff as an attorney. And if you see what happened, Benjamin Braff pushed for a dismissal, and he didn't get it. The lawyer said, the judge said a trial date. Harvey Weinstein's going to go throw more money to pay off time. Harvey's going to go for time. Then he's going to fire Benjamin Braff and show up with 2 women, primarily 1 black and 1 Asian, or 1 white and 1 Asian.
What? What does that have to do with anything?
And this is when this trial is going to get very interesting.
Wait, what? Why? Why would... What a weird thing to fucking say.
How do you know he's going to do all this stuff?
Because I know this is what I would do.
What? This guy... Wow. Wow, this guy, when he has a microphone in front of him, he is... You'd think that for being a criminal, he would know when to shut the fuck up. Holy crap. Self-incrimination,
I know.
dude?
You come
like,
to me and
dude.
you know, I'm getting busted for this. What do I do? Because of how I grew up around those people, this is what you do.
Because I grew up around these people? You mean no, because you are one. Because I was one of those people, Joe. You know, it's I can speak from personal experience.
Well, I'm going to go in there with either a black woman.
Again, he's doing it. He's doubling down on this?
An Asian woman.
What is your what the? This is so profoundly weird. This is so messed up. And like, this is, this is kind of what I was saying about the leftist thing, like the toxic masculinity thing. I got a little derailed, but how are you gonna fucking listen to this shit and then go, yeah, you know what? This is kind of the toxic masculinity stuff those guys are talking about. At least I think it might be.
Or a white woman. My first two choices are a black and an Asian woman.
You want to get the
A black and an Asian woman, Joe. Yeah, Joey.
diversity
I
angle?
want to get the diversity angle, and I want to get that you're saying that because you're a black woman, Chinese woman. What I'm trying to
What the?
stare. Did you ever really watch The People versus O.J. Simpson?
No, I didn't.
Very interesting.
The dramatization of Cuba Gooding?
But it's funny how Joe Rogan,
Another? I think he got called out of Me Too.
on the other hand, is
Man, you guys are it's just this little peas and pod. And also, he kind of said that like, hey, you ever seen the thing about OJ? Yeah, I admire that man. I admire him a lot.
so disgusted by guys like Harvey Weinstein, even after laughing uncontrollably at his buddy Joey Diaz's open confession years before. So let me just clarify something before I
Yeah, so if you're a Joe Rogan fan still listening, can you just explain to me how this is like, there's no line there and like you just kind of skip over it the way that I was just explaining where I used to do that? Like, but even I had that limit where I was kind of like, oh, ew. Like, a good line that I had with O&A was anytime Anthony would start talking about like the girls he was dating, because we also knew it was kind of legit that he was going after 17-year-olds, which was, dude, the guy was like in his 50s. So, but the scariest part was how many dudes were just like, yeah, Anthony, my man, whoop, whoop, whoop. Yeah, he's just playing it. He's just doing what every man would do. Yeah. And then you have like guys that I guess we're just, the beta cucks that are just too quiet about this shit or some shit. I don't know, but I just was kind of always of the mind where I'm like, oh, well, I'm becoming less and less of a fan of you, to the point where when Anthony got fired, I was kind of like, all right, but it's the same shit with this, where it's just like, how are you going to constantly like, how did Rogan listen to that and not go, hey, buddy, you're on one of the most popular podcasts. You get more views than, the world news. You might want to shut up.
I move on and show you this next clip, I'm not suggesting that Joey Diaz is the same type of person as Harvey Weinstein.
I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say he is. Sorry. I know. Fucking hot take.
I'm only going off his own words from 2011, which I'll discuss in more detail towards the end. But the point of showing you this is to point out the hypocrisy of somebody as powerful as Joe Rogan, who laughs off his...
Is that Bobby Lee and Ari, or is that Bobby Lee with... If you're a Howard Stern fan, that kind of looks like Eric. High pitch Eric. Oh, hi guys. It's me, Kelly Clarkson.
own friend's predatory behavior, but then clutches his pearls at how someone like Harvey Weinstein was able to get away with his actions for so many years without so much as a whisper.
And get away with it for so long.
Giovanni Ribisi.
Doing
20-something years.
Is it?
Nobody
Is
would
that
do
him?
that.
Oh no, no, it's not. My bad. That was the guy from the Fast and the Furious. Was it Fast and or? Oh, geez, Boiler Room. Yeah, that was it. No, this is whatever.
20-something years.
Yeah.
And might be more, right? They got cases
Well, there's way
in
more
LA.
cases. Yeah, there's way more cases. This is just what he's been convicted for.
Right.
I mean, he apparently was behaving like that for decades.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Oh my God, this was part of the interview that I remembered. It wasn't even with Joey. He was talking about like mob shit. No wonder.
Telling me nobody knew.
They knew. They all knew. That's what's crazy is it's worked into his fucking contract.
It's amazing.
It's
But you know what else?
They're all complicit. And there's a thing called diffusion of responsibility where there's too many people involved. You don't feel like you're responsible. You don't feel like that's what, when they say it's easier to assault someone in front of 100 people than it is to assault someone in front of one person.
Yeah.
Because one person might step in and stop it. but 100 people will sit around and go, someone's got to stop this.
Gotcha.
I think, from what I understand,
I don't
part
think
of
he
it.
needed
I
to
think
do
that's part
this.
of it.
I think it's his ego, and
I think that's too.
like
I
Bill
think that's it,
Cosby
too.
was the same thing.
Yes. It becomes a pathology, and I think there's also a thing about power. It's a power thing to have power over people.
Sure.
Just a random thought. Could you imagine what would happen if Joe Rogan got the little headphone dent that streamers were getting?
For me,
That'd be kind of funny to watch.
this is where Rogan starts to fall apart. He's happy to provide a running commentary on Harvey Weinstein and all of his crimes. He's
Yeah, but then you're just gonna sit there and run roughshod for frickin' Joey Diaz.
even brought up some disease that Weinstein has that led to deformities in his junk region. If you've ever heard him talk about it, you'll know what I mean. But my point is, as a basic concept where there's a guy in a position of power and young women who are impressionable and desperate for fame and attention, Rogan makes it clear exactly what his position is.
The casting couch in Hollywood, if you stop and think about it, right? You've got all these women that want to be in films, they want to be stars. Then you got these guys that can actually help them, make them stars, but they want something. And then you set up this dynamic that's existed since,
The fact that that was its own porn section for as long as it was, before somebody finally went, you know what? I think this is kind of predatory. Could you imagine the intern was Bobcat Goldthwait? You guys, I don't think that we should be doing this anymore. It's almost like abusing women and our structure of powers. Maybe not the best thing.
20s.
Imagine what it was like back then.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
Well,
So is that not exactly what his buddy Joey Diaz confessed to, even bragged about on his very own podcast?
That's another guy. Just realized.
Like, what am I missing here, right? Was Joey just doing a bit when he said all that stuff years ago? And if it was a bit, where was the funny part? See, this is what I'm sick of when it comes to Rogan and his circle jerk of comedy.
I'm right there with you, brother. That's insane, because that's kind of what I think led me to getting out of Rogan, was just kind of seeing this keep going, where it's like, and this, I really do think that this is what started it for me, where anytime that Joey would come on, specifically when it was Joey and Ari, I would get disgusted because he would tell these stories with just like, it was nothing to him. And then the way that him and Ari would laugh about it and just never call him on the carpet for any of the shit that he just said was insane. I mean, I can't imagine if, like, a Shane Gillis, like, I can't imagine him being very comfortable being lumped in with the Joey Diaz.
Brain groupies. A lot of these guys made a name for themselves by calling out the
God, it's so funny when you realize that. I think him and Rey Mysterio are the same height.
establishment for putting up barriers in controlling access to their audiences. That's classically what Hollywood did, right? Rogan smashed that bubble into pieces and showed how you could go directly to your audience without all the middlemen and the suits clipping the ticket. And he brought his friends along for the ride. The problem is that
Last time I'm gonna even mention him, but that had to piss off Opie and Anthony a little bit. Where it's like, number one, they lost one of their like top guests to his own thing, and then it was just kind of like, oh boy, like he's way more successful than us, and he's making more money than us now. Oh, and here we are trying to sign contracts, and then oh no, my career. And then Opie's doing whatever Opie's doing.
as most of my regulars will know from my extensive coverage of the Rogan universe, these guys are no different to the establishment that they've replaced. And it's not about politics or culture wars or anything like that.
No, and that's what I wish people would stop. Like, I have a bunch of people in my comments sometimes that they try to hyper fixate on, like, because I'm very open with my politics, but I try to be fair, specifically in the context of comedy, because, like, again, dude, like, I get it. You're just trying to be funny. And this is why I like a Shane Gillis, where it is, no, like, his bit about Donald Trump being hilarious is hilarious. And it's also true, because it's just like, yeah, it's like, I get it. Can we just, like, when he's like, can we just admit that Donald Trump's funny? It's like, yeah, but he's also like, I don't think that qualifies him to be president. Like, we need to stop that. I'm of the mind that, I got out of that, I want to have a president that I want to have a beer with, when George Bush Jr. was president. But outside of that, I wish you guys would stop making it about the politics and just be honest with yourselves. Just be honest and just be like, no, that behavior is disgusting. No, I don't want to be associated with that kind of shit. And on top of it, it's cringe. It's just fucking cringe. It's not funny. There's nothing like the shock jock aspect of it's not even there. It's just disgusting.
That it's about double standards when it comes to the new elites versus the old elites, covering up and ignoring their own.
Yeah, and then, but also look at how quickly they are to go like victim mode the second that they get called on this shit, or it's like the cancel culture's running rampant, man. You can't say anything nowadays.
Behavior, while at the same time pointing out how bad.
It's almost like you can't talk about how you coerced the other comedians that worked under you to have perform favors for you in exchange for drugs and in exchange for some better time slots. It's almost like you can't say that shit anymore. Oh!
Guys like Diddy and R. Kelly and Harvey Weinstein the list goes on, right? We saw this with the Bobby.
Cat Williams had the best line about that. Oh man, these big dick degenerates are gonna have their moment.
Lee Tijuana story, and then all the times he went on morning talk shows and harassed the female.
Yeah, dude, Bobby Lee is another one where it's just like, yo, just because he's weird, you guys let him get away with some like straight up fucking just disgusting behavior, and then you platform him even harder for it, and you're like, that's just Bobby Lee. It's
female hosts, and pretty much got away with it. Why? Because he's a comedian, and it's just a bit, apparently. I guarantee you the same thing would happen with Joey Diaz. If he ever had...
Ew. Like, right there, that's fucking gross, man. Like...
To actually answer...
Hold on. You see one of your friends doing this shit, you walk up to him, you do the goose. This is when somebody deserves the goose. You know what I'm talking about? Like, 90s kids know this shit because our parents definitely were not, thinking like, oh, this is abuse in any way. But that little grab right underneath your armpit and like the flab of your arm, you give them that goose and you just say, come fucking here, you motherfucker, you fucking creepoid. What the fuck? Because like you okay? If you're okay with that shit, I want nothing to do with you. I mean, shit. Like, this dude's behavior is so reprehensible that I wouldn't even take that bong if he passed it to me. Which, I'm sorry, man. I'm not one to pass up a bong.
He'd end up claiming that he was just...
Especially a bong. That's my preferred method of smoking.
Doing a bid. It was for the camera. He was embellishing a story, and that's what he does. Blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, they'll sit there and tell us how bad Hollywood is and how the system breeds this sort of behavior when that's literally where they came from.
Yeah, you gotta sit my dick up in the belly room. I'm making coffee.
I am so glad that you're replaying this. Thank you for reiterating just how bad this was. And why is he so far away from his microphone?
Yeah, that's the fucking gateway into coming to Hollywood. Everybody knows that.
How many girls did you have do that?
Oh, 20 of them.
And I think I'm even more disgusted by Joe laughing at it.
Cat Williams called it at the beginning.
Oh, yes!
Beginning of the year that there was going to be some pretty crazy...
These big dick deviants out here gonna have their comeuppance.
Revelation.
I think that's more in line with what he said.
This year, and all this stuff was going to come out, and it's going to shock everyone. So far, it feels like he was right, and it seems people are...
He was very... Although, what happened with the Jay-Z one? You guys remember that? Like, after the P. Diddy shit? Like,
becoming less and less willing to excuse...
That one just kind of, like, got buried.
Use this kind of behavior. And just remember, you can't use the excuse that these things happened years and years ago. And
and I'm sick. Oh, my God. Do you know how many people I have, even in my real life, where, like, I had somebody kind of pull that shit with P. Diddy, where I was like, what? No, dude. No, this isn't, and he's like, well, you could still listen to like Michael Jackson's songs, and I'm like, yeah, but even with those, you still, like, you hear Thriller, and immediately you're still like, yeah, he might have touched kids, and you get uncomfortable immediately. And then, that's why, like, the people that are just so, like one-sided with the separate the art from the artist. I can't. How? Because the art and the artist are kind of one in the same, because it's a reflection of that person. So it's kind of like, oh well, all right. So they had this great thing. Oh God, the guy who did Rurouni Kenshin. If I know whatever nerd shit, but it's an anime. But the lead guy who created it got caught doing some CP stuff, right, and some pretty bad stuff. And then what they did is, because his thing was so popular, like the Rurouni Kenshin was so popular, they gave it to somebody else to continue it, and they kept going with it and kicked him off the project and took his name off of it essentially and all this stuff. But for a guy like me who was even like who liked it, and then after all that, and even though I had heard some pretty good reviews about the new one, I can't even do that. Like I'm just like, nah, I'm good. I think that I'm never gonna be able to not associate that with that dude. So it's the same shit with this.
Or it doesn't matter. There are some limitations on civil action.
God, this is kind of part, like, I'm glad that like the Weinstein shit happened, but also I'm just happy that like in our lives that this shit happened to him too, where it's like, no, no matter how much money you have, look at how decrepit this motherfucker still got.
A lot of what Harvey Weinstein did and Bill Cosby did, even the current investigation into P. Diddy, a lot of those things happened years ago and even decades ago.
Camille.
I mean, look what happened to Louis C.K. He got dropped from all of his sponsors, all his deals got cancelled, and compare what he admitted to doing to what Joey Diaz.
Objectively, though, one of the funniest things that ever happened was when he was on the phone with Donald Rumsfeld and he called him a lizard to his face. That was one of my favorite moments in the history of mankind.
Admitted to himself. I don't know, guys. I'm a fan of Joey Diaz just as much as the next guy. I think he's...
That's weird. See, now that's weird. Like, I don't know how you, like, after even doing this, then he can come out and be like, yeah, I'm still a fan of Joey Diaz, Objectively, again, like, I can admit that the guy's a good, like, I don't want to call him a joke writer, because I don't even think he really writes jokes necessarily. I think that he just comes up with bits and then just tells them. Although, I mean, he might be surprised, but
he's pretty funny on.
But yeah, like I'll admit that he's funny, but again, man, this one now hits that point of artist, and like, I just rather not even see you on the bill, dude. Like,
podcasts, but not so much on stage, which seems to be the way with most of Rogan's buddies. But we've got to be consistent with this stuff.
I mean, dude, Brandon Schaub somehow got a career.
Funny isn't an excuse for being a predator. He's claiming he found the right path and he loves his comedy, family, and all of that. So why is he bragging about how he would use and abuse the very same...
I did just realize that they didn't bring up the cocaine thing, where and Rogan talked about this openly, where he would have to book other comedians just in case, anytime that he would book Joey for a show.
Comedy family when he was on his way up, to the point where he apparently broke some young comic. Anyway, that's my take on the whole Joey Diaz situation.
Yeah, definitely check out Podcast Cringe. This guy has he's got a laundry list of videos that they cover a bunch of the topics that honestly I would like to, but he does a much better job. So I don't think that I'm gonna really go too much deeper into his content, just because he does have a Bert Kreischer video coming up that I want to watch with everybody, because I kind of want to see where he stands on Bert Kreischer. I'm kind of interested in getting to know this dude's channel a little bit more, because I'll be honest, I liked going into this one without ever seeing it. It was definitely a little more interesting, but I'm not even going to lie. I got to about like that 14-minute mark, and I'm like, this is where is this truth about Joey Diaz? Because this is not the truth that I know. It's like you seem to be a fan, and you're also trying to make him out to be like this, great family person. So, but yeah, if you liked this video, definitely check out my other videos. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000, so if you can help me with that, that'd be awesome. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.